Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you about my week in the Faroe Islands. So I did do another video just about kind of general information for the Faroe Islands, but this particular video is just going to be about my trip. Not that there won't be things for you to glean from my experience to plan your trip, but I just want to give a clarification on what this particular video will be about. When I was planning my trip, I knew of the 3 cities that fly into the Faroe Islands. I have been to Iceland, so I was favoring the 2 that I had not been to, and it ended up being that Copenhagen was the cheapest from Orlando for me, so that ended up being it. Stayed in Copenhagen before and after the week in the Faroe Islands, and I loved Copenhagen. I will do another video about Copenhagen. So we flew from Copenhagen, Denmark into the Faroe Islands on a Saturday, and then we left the following Saturday. So we had 6 full days in the Faroe Islands. So generally I like to avoid high season, and I like traveling September and October. For the Faroe Islands, I will say that some of the weather conditions that I ran into might not be as much of a factor if you go in the summer, which is their high season. And temperature-wise, it's not going to be that different. Faroe Islands, from what I can tell, basically range from the 30s to the 50s year-round. Temperature-wise, they're not really crazy drastic differences. Obviously, the difference is going to be the rain and the wind. And we definitely experienced those. So we arrive on a Saturday, we get the rental car at the airport, found out that the Northern Lights appeared the week before. Yeah, they did not appear while I was there at the end of September, but the week before, they were there. Try and find a local or do your own research about the Northern Lights before you go will probably be your best bet, because at least when I was there were no Northern Lights tours, although I'm hoping some little entrepreneur in the Faroe Islands will get on that, because I would have bought that tour. We got the car, saw the rental car guy's photos of the Northern Lights, and he did warn us that they had some very strong winds at the time. Now, anytime obviously a local is telling you to be aware of something, pay attention. So I was like, okay, no problem. And I was like, but can we drive in it? And he was like, oh yeah, you can drive in it. And I was like, okay. Perfect. So we drove to, I just want to say I'm sorry in advance for any butchering that I might do. Klaksvik. That is the first little town that we stayed, and it was so cute, and it was kind of basically on the other side of the Faroe Islands that are connected by underground tunnels, so you can drive quite a lot of the island without ever getting on a ferry. So I stayed over there, and the wind was there, but it wasn't super crazy. But then on Sunday we woke up, it was still windy, but you know, like, let's go, you know, the locals are out, we're out. So we basically drove around a couple of different islands, and I'll put a map on the screen of like kind of our driving pattern. Overall, I mean, the Faroe Islands are just so beautiful. Now on Monday, we were supposed to do the Keller Lighthouse hike on Kalsoy. We woke up on Monday to howling winds. Now, like, it was windy on Sunday, it was windy on Saturday. Monday was another level. Monday was just so extra. And then on top of that, we had like ice hitting our windows of the Airbnb that we were staying. And I was like, now, my friend was like, we're not going out in this. And I was like, we're gonna try. We're gonna try. I will say that generally speaking with the Faroe Islands, if it is bad weather in one area of the islands, it might be okay in another area. Now, that is not always the case, and in this particular moment of this winter storm, I learned that. Let's go to the tourist center of this town, and let's ask questions. Like, maybe we can still go. Maybe it's not as bad as we think, even though we're used to hurricanes. And fun fact, a hurricane did pass through, and I was actually thankful that I didn't have to be home without power or worrying through the entire hurricane. But anyways, we went into this tourist center. I mean, the winds were howling, like they were out of control. We go into this tourist center. She does tell me the ferries are not operating, but the ferry to Kalsoy was only going to be a 20-minute ferry. It wasn't even like a long ferry. It was just going to be a short little ferry ride. So I stayed there. I asked her a bunch of questions, mainly because I just really wanted I guess, a different answer than I was getting. One of the things she did say, and I think she wanted to make sure we understood how dangerous it would be, even if the ferry was operating, how dangerous it would be to try and do the hike in those conditions. That summer, like just the months before, it was something around 17, like 15 to 20, somewhere in there, people broke a bone on that hike. And mainly it was due to improper shoes. We had proper shoes, but I did get the point. This is not the weather to be doing that hike. We hung out in the tourist center. We went to the coffee shop connected to it. We went and had lunch somewhere else in town. And I mean, everywhere I went, I was like, so what do you guys normally do when the weather's like this? And everyone just said, we stay inside. I was like, oh, okay. One thing too that I just really found charming, and I don't know, this moment of like, I'm not in America anymore. I was trying to figure out what we were gonna do on this Monday that I had planned to do this hike. And so what about a pool? Do you guys got a pool? Like, because we brought our swimsuit. She's like, oh yeah, we have a pool. Oh, but you can't do it today. I was like, oh, what about a movie theater? She's like, oh yeah, we have a movie theater. And I was like, oh, is it English? She's like, yeah, all our movies are in English. When are the movies? 5:30 p.m. And I was like, oh, this is the morning. Like when we were trying to figure out what to do with our day. And she said 5:30. And I was like, oh. She's like, yeah, we're all working. And I was like, it's valid point. Valid point. We are not in America. We can't go to the movies until after 5 when people get out of work. It makes sense. It really does. So basically we just had coffee, had lunch, went back to the Airbnb, watched movies from the Airbnb, and just prayed for better weather on Tuesday. And so Tuesday we woke up. Thankfully, the weather was so much better. And this particular day, we were going to be moving from this Airbnb in Klagsvik to the capital, which I'm not even going to pronounce because I know I'll butcher that one 100%. So we moved to the capital, and on the way, obviously, we did a different driving route then, which I will show you. We stopped in this one village, which again, I'm not going to pronounce, that apparently dates back like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. 17 generations have lived, like of the same family, have lived in this one. I guess, I don't know if it's like a farm. I guess it's a farm. It would make the most sense if it was some type of a farm. Anyway, so we went there, visited that. It was sunny and blue skies. Then from there, we basically drove up to Saxon area to walk towards the Black Sand Beach and do that hike. Absolutely so incredibly beautiful. Now, we lucked out, thankfully, and we were there during low tide, so we were able to walk all the way to the beach. I would definitely plan for it because it is such a cool walk to be able to walk all the way to the beach. So plan for low tide, but that hike is really beautiful. And then from there, we went back to the capital and had dinner and yeah, enjoyed a good night's sleep. All right, so Wednesday, we went and had breakfast in the capital city. And now this is another moment where it's like, we're not in America anymore. The coffee shops, there was I think 2 or 3 coffee shops that were open for breakfast. Fairly positive they were all open at 9. I think one might have been 8:30, but 9 a.m. There is no getting there early. So if you have an early morning start for anything, be prepared with food on your own. But I also kind of love it because I just think it's so good to just slow down. You know, like we're in such a hurry over here, and for what? You know, we just end up more stressed and more tired, and just we're in a rush for what reason? So after breakfast, we headed over to Faroe Island. But we went over to do the lake over ocean hike. And I know this has a different name, but I'm just going with that one because that's literally what you're going to see. The lake suspended over the ocean. It is so cool. It is so beautiful. The path is very clear, very easy. You do not need a guide, but you do pay for this. You pay for every hike. Just be prepared. You pay for every hike. And when you start, there's a car park where you pay, there's bathrooms. The hike takes a couple of hours, but we had pretty much most of the morning before we had to go to the boat tour that I booked in the afternoon. So I pre-booked a boat tour to see, and I know I'm gonna butcher this. I'm sorry again. I should stop saying this. We wanted to see the Drangarnir. We wanted to go see the sea stack. You can do the boat tour or you can do a hike to see this particular sea stack. However, when I was looking at the hikes, I think that hike required you to book a guide because it goes on private property. So just keep that in mind. I ended up doing the boat tour and I loved the boat tour. I absolutely loved this boat tour. And then after the tour, we went ahead and drove to see the waterfall, which we saw from the boat, but we went to see it from land. Okay, so Thursday was the other boat tour that I booked, and thankfully both of the days that I booked tours, the weather was great. Thankful for that. I didn't have to reschedule anything, but I will say after experiencing those winter storms, if there's anything that you really want to do, book it towards the front end of your trip just in case anything does have to get rescheduled. Thursday, though, the weather was beautiful. We made our way over to Vestmanna Tourist Center to get the boat to see the Vestmanna Cliffs. It felt like I was in Jurassic Park and I would see a pterodactyl or something. I mean, it's just so ethereal and beautiful and wild and untouched and just book the boat tours, guys. It's just so beautiful. As always, I will link everything that I talk about in the description so you can do your own research and book any tours that you would like for your trip. Okay, so that was a morning boat tour. Basically, I decided to drive to the furthest island that I could, which is actually past Klaksvik. Side note, if you were wondering where to stay in the Faroe Islands, I would honestly say anywhere that you want within any islands that are drivable. That can be kind of your main hub. So you can stay in the capital and just drive everywhere. I mean, it's not so big that you really have to overthink it. I did overthink it because I'm an overthinker. You could really stay anywhere and just drive. We didn't basically get to do all the things that I wanted to on that end of the Faroe Islands when we were staying in Klaksvik. So here we are, driving across all the Faroe Islands to get to the further island. And it was beautiful. And we had this funny moment driving through a one-lane tunnel. And we get out and the light is red, so we stopped. But the cars behind us, they actually passed us and went. And I was like, oh my God, should we have gone? I was like, no, let's just wait. But we were waiting for so long. I mean, we were waiting for so long that I thought we messed up. So then I remembered asking the local behind me, like, are we good? Were we supposed to wait? And he said, yes, you wait. They just understand how it works. That's why they passed you. That was probably the only time driving where I was like a little nervous. The rest of the time, I felt like it was pretty easy to drive in the Faroe Islands. Do not be intimidated. But it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, this whole area is it's just so beautiful. And so we just kind of basically drove around, took photos, got out of the car a couple times, but it was mainly just drive and just enjoy the scenery. So that is what we did. Friday, I was planning, you know what I was planning? I was planning Kalsoy. Friday was gonna be my day. And my original plan for the Faroe Islands was going to be Monday, ferry to Kalsoy and do that hike. And then Friday, we were going to ferry to a different island, like the further one south. I'll put it on the screen. That was my original plan. Both Monday and Friday, I was going to be ferrying to islands. Kalsoy, because that didn't work out Monday. I couldn't work it out on Thursday. It was going to be Friday. Guess what happened Friday? Just guess. Another winter storm. Now, in this particular situation, we were kind of far from Klaksvik, Kalsoy area because we were at the capital now. Obviously kind of a ways away. So I thought, maybe it's not bad there. Maybe it's just here. So I did look up the weather specifically for Kalsoy. 70 mile per hour winds. 70 mile per hour winds. So we didn't go. Ferries were just canceling. Left, right, and center. So we went to a museum. Then we made our way back to the Airbnb. And then I actually just said, I'm going to walk. So my friend rested at the Airbnb and I walked through this winter storm to a coffee shop. And I just relaxed at the coffee shop. And that's what I did. Maybe one day I will make it back to the Faroe Islands and I will be able to get on a ferry or even a helicopter. If I was going to recommend anything for you, I would definitely say, normally, I say to avoid high season. The Faroe Islands, you might have the most cooperative weather in high season. And Saturday was the day that we left and we went and had breakfast in town again. Now, we had breakfast here 3 different times and 2 were at this one coffee shop. And then this particular day, we went to this other coffee shop. We saw the same mother and son having breakfast each time. I mean, they probably thought we were stalking them. It was obviously not on purpose. But it's just like, this is the capital city, and it is such a, it's still like it's like a small town. It's a small town. I grew up in a small town. My small town felt bigger than the capital city. That's just how it's like cute and charming and just, I don't know, close knit the Faroe Islands feel. Okay, well, that is it for my week in the Faroe Islands. I absolutely loved this trip so much. Just from a natural, untouched beauty standpoint, the Faroe Islands just shines. On top of that, it's a slower pace of life, which just, honestly, it was a good reminder to slow down in my normal life as much as possible. Everything is just so hectic when we come back to the States, especially by comparison, but it's just so nice to be somewhere and just remember to slow down and just enjoy life and to breathe a little bit. I hope this was helpful if you are planning a trip or you are even thinking about it. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy travels. Bye.